The second round of living supplies and food boxes for disadvantaged students begins in Nantou County. Tzu volunteers in the United Kingdom provide hot food to those in need, filling their stomach during the pandemic. 歡迎收睇大 Headlines， 我係 Ruby， 我哋一齊嚟睇下今日嘅內容。The second round of providing living supplies and healthy fruits and vegetable boxes to disadvantaged students in Nantou has begun. A Tzu volunteer who had injured her hand in a car accident still came out to give and form affinities with others. Boxes of living supplies were sent to Minjian Junior High School. Tzu volunteer Tzu Chi had a scooter accident at the end of last month. She had a communicative fracture in her left hand. Wearing a bandage around her hand, she still came to help out.
What we can do is to cultivate blessings. Because of the pandemic, I haven't come out to give for 2 to 3 months, so I seized this opportunity to come out to form affinities with others.
Volunteer Liao Yue, who has hearing impaired due to illness since childhood, can best understand the plight of disadvantaged students. Taking advantage of the easing pandemic, she came out to contribute with others.
Give some warmth and blessings to the disadvantaged families.
More than 2,000 boxes of living supplies were packed last week by volunteers and young people from the No Meat Market. Each box contained 14 kinds of living materials and 2 packs of rice. Together with this healthy vegetable and fruit box, the needs of disadvantaged students can definitely be satisfied.
Red dragon fruit, white radish, and the pomelo for Mid-Autumn Festival is also here.
The volunteers help load the supplies onto the car, allowing the parents coming to collect it feel intimate.
是怕小朋友营养不均衡嘛？对，所以就拿这些回去。
慈济基金会的话，给我感受到的话，真的充满的爱。
With Tzu Chi such long-term care, the disadvantaged families can have a peace of mind.
The living supplies box, as well as fruit and vegetable box, were also sent to the elementary and middle schools in Tzu Chi town. Parents came to collect in batches. The distribution was completed in 2 days, sending the love to the homes of disadvantaged students. Hualian's Xiuning Township is the largest township in Taiwan, with a total of 9 villages. Tzu Foundation provides relief supplies to impoverished students, as care and vegetable packages are given to local farm associations for onward distribution to the residents living around.
As the alert level downgraded, Tzu Chi volunteers and workers from the Xingxiu area's farm association gathered, meeting at Xiuling Township's Tongmen village. The distribution was held under a tree.
It's really hard to find, even with the map, especially when the roads are narrow, the car can't even get through. This is really a great challenge. It's very meaningful to do the distribution, and since we agreed to do so, we must complete it.
Ms. Lee's household of 7 includes 3 children currently going to school. During the period with no classes, her husband suffered from an injury at work, bringing difficulties to the family.
Due to the pandemic, we didn't leave the house if possible. I am glad there are kind people who bring us supplies. We try to save as much as we can, and it's great to have vegetables.
Care packages, vegetable packages, and 2 rice bags are given to residents as they take the supplies home.
I'm thankful to Tzu Chi and our farm association for giving us supplies. I think to us indigenous people, the supplies given are very appropriate and helpful.
In Hualien County, 9 farm associations take on the responsibility to distribute supplies. Volunteers will be there to make sure each supply is delivered. Under the pandemic, volunteers, workers, and residents form a kind cycle, protecting each other while obeying COVID prevention measures.
Students from Tzu University and Turkey's Manahil School joined in a project to learn building temporary shelter for refugees. TCU students made special visits to Jingsi abode in order to learn from volunteers who have built prefabricating housing before.
Just make the L shape.
Students visit volunteers in order to learn building skills and then build a sample home with smaller proportions.
The proportion is about 1 to 5, but the insides are the same. Under the guidance of Tzu Chi sisters and brothers, they have guided students into the process, experiencing the hard procedures and knowing that you must be sincere when contributing.
This is a project for TCU students and students from Mena Hill School, building temporary shelters for refugees.
Next week you will show us your drawings with the colors of this house.
Some people love the color pink, so they will draw pink. But some students like the color black. Therefore, we must use black color.
During the video conference, the multiple languages are used and translated. Everyone had the same intention to complete the blueprint.
Some students will tell us they want to be engineers because we want to rebuild homes in our country. So we must think of a course that will help them pursue their dreams.
Though you are miles away from us, thank you for doing this much effort. Thank you.
Though there's an 8,000-kilometer gap between Taiwan and Turkey, the video conference this time brought students close to each other, overcoming many challenges together.
Tzu Chi Foundation has been providing 5 Jingxi halls as vaccination stations in the new Taipei city. In addition to Taipei Tzu Chi Hospital and team members shifting manpower to serve the public, there are many retired elderly volunteers who also seized the opportunity to contribute.
来，往这里，这边请坐来。来，李家姐，你旁边可以坐，我知道，哎。
72-year-old Zhang Xingchun kindly greeted the people to take their seats and fill in the information. He has been vaccinated and volunteers in Sanchong Jingshi Hall almost every day.
After all, it can make everyone here feel at home, a sense of warmth. We feel that when we do this job, we feel that it's very meaningful to undertake.
The Tzu Chi Foundation has provided 5 Jingsi halls in New Taipei City as vaccination stations for 2 months. Many older volunteers join the ranks of service.
We are really happy to serve others. What we can do is try our best, and all we can do is give a little bit of effort. I feel really lucky and blessed.
Some people who are inconvenient, in wheelchairs or on crutches, all kinds of inconvenient situations, we all help. I feel very happy to help them in this way.
There is a metaphor for transforming a city in the Lotus Sutra. I think our Jingxi Hall is like a transforming city. At this stage of the pandemic, we'll build a transforming city and then attract the people to make them feel at ease and stabilize their uneasy emotions. Then, the medical staff gave them the injections, just like giving them a protective force.
At the vaccination station, volunteers reassure the people with empathy and give everyone peace of mind. It proves that the dedication is the practice Buddhist.
Even though the lockdown of the United Kingdom was completely eased last month, the infectious mutant virus stopped many of the Tzu Chi caring activities from resuming to normal. Volunteers in Oxford, Manchester, and Malvern changed to deliver hot food to those in need. In the kitchen of the Chinese takeaway restaurant, main chef Tommy Tse prepared the vegetable ingredients and cooked them into delicious dishes. This was to prepare for the food distribution hosted by volunteers from Oxford for more than half a year.
These are deep fried with flour. This is mushroom, while this is long bean.
Volunteers packed the cold dishes immediately into meal boxes and sent directly to the Bodley community fridge, so that the homeless individuals can have hot food to eat even during the pandemic.
Usually we cook rice this week, another week we'll cook noodles. There are quite a lot of things and they are different every time. I've been a chef for decades. Every time I'll make something different so the homeless can eat happily.
Volunteers not only distributed hot food, but also daily necessities and plenty of care.
I know that it's a Buddhist organization, that you do welfare and relief and help people who need help, and that it's international. So I think it's just a really lovely organization, and I've been so impressed with everyone who has come and helped out here.
And in Manchester, volunteers have cared for a woman halfway home for a long time, but they were unable to go there during the pandemic. They change to provide meals so that the women there can eat healthily. Besides, the Melbourne community distributes hot food to homeless individuals every Wednesday. The volunteers took the initiative to cook. Although they cooked in their own kitchen, they were still very mindful about dish matching, and even adhered to aphorisms on the meal box lids, not only filling the stomach of the homeless individuals, but also satisfying their spiritual needs. The volunteers in Colombo, Sri Lanka, have suspended recycling for half a year due to the pandemic. Recently, they have resumed recycling work, selling the recyclables accumulated over the past few months for the local charity fund. PET bottles, iron and aluminium cans, these recyclables are being weighed for money. Colombo's recycling work is resumed, and the selling price of the recyclables also rose slightly.
Tzu Chi කොළඹ කාර්යාලය මගෙන් අපි පරිසර ආරක්ෂණ වැඩසටහන කළේ මාස 3කට විතර පස්සේ තමයි අපිට මේකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න ඕනේ මොකද මේ පැන්ඩමික් එක නිසා ඉතින් විශේෂයෙන් ළමයින්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව ගැන හිතලා අපි ජින්සි කිට්ස් ළමයිකට ගෙන්න ගත්තා.
After 6 months, we can finally get together to do recycling. Today we sorted out the recyclables that were accumulated in the past 6 months. I'm very happy to join this action because doing recycling can prevent nature from being destroyed. In the future, we should keep going to villages to encourage people to collect recyclable items and hand it to Tzu Chi. This is also a source of funding for Tzu Chi's charity mission.
විකුණන්න පුළුවන් සියලු දේම අපි වෙන් කරලා ඒවා මුදල් කරගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒක සුචි සංවිධානයේ අරමුදලට අපිට බැර කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේක තවදුරටත් ගම්මානවලට ගිහිල්ලා ගම්මානවල නිකරුණේ පාරට දාන ඒවා ඒ වගේම පුලුස්සන ඒවා අරගෙන මේ වගේ මුදල් බවට පත් කරන්න පුළුවන් බව මිනිස්සු දැනුවත් කළා. ඒ ටික එකතු කරලා මේ සුචි සංවිධානයේ අරමුදල තර කරන්න අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
අද අපිට මේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබ්බේ කොරෝනා ප්‍රශ්නේ. මේ දෙද අපි කාලයක් කරන්නත් බැරි වුණා. අපි පොඩි කට්ටිය නැතු වුණත් අපි වැඩිහිටියෝ 4-5 දෙනෙක් එකතු වෙලා මේ පරිසරය ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙලේ මේ අපි දරුවෝ ටික එකතු කරලා ඒවා.
We are all very happy to be able to get together again after a long period of epidemic prevention. We are the elderly who have been kept at home for a long time, so this recycling work is helpful to our health. It's also helpful for Tzu Chi's charity fund.
අර හිතට නම් ගොඩාක් ලොකු සතුටක් ලැබෙනවා. මොකද අපි එක්තන් වෙලා ඉන්න අවස්ථාවේ මේක එළියට බහින්න බෑ. ඒත් වුණත් අපි ආරක්ෂාවක් ඇතුව කොරෝනාවෙන් ආරක්ෂා වෙලා අපි අර මේ සතුට හිතට සතුටක් දැනෙනවා. මානසික ලොකු සතුටක් ලැබුවා මේකෙන් මේ වගේ එකට එක්කවල වැඩ කරන්න ලැබිච්ච එක ගැන.
In Malaysia, North Seberang Perai district of Penang has had a recent spike in COVID cases, and many are staying at home quarantining for their safety. For a quick and more centralized testing, the local health officials are setting up a COVID center with the help of Tzu volunteers.
In North Seberang Perai district of Penang, Malaysia, there are approximately 1,200 residents being quarantined at home due to COVID. For ease of testing COVID cases, the local health officials are setting up a COVID center with the help of Tzu Chi volunteers.
Knowing that at the moment, Seberang Perai Utara is having a spike of new cases coming up, we are planning to open up a centralized sampling center basically, and also for COVID assessment center for Seberang Perai Utara district. This will actually help to bring us manpower which is more centralized in one place rather than scattered around.
In just 2 days, Tzu Chi volunteers were able to find all the equipment needed at the center despite some difficulty.
我是负责那个找人风机跟租借一些座椅。
I'm in charge of finding cooling fans and renting chairs and tables. Due to the length of our rental period, it would have been very expensive, renting by day or even month. So, thanks to our affinities with others, the companies were able to give us a massive discount when we stated that we were using these items for the public's welfare.
We purchased tents instead of renting because these tents can be reused in many different ways, whether it's in the future disaster relief or other activities.
From electricity to wiping down the chairs to even cleaning up the washroom, each of the volunteers take on a task to ensure the COVID center can begin operation as soon as possible.
这是什么东西来的？这是它的过滤器，因为我们要
保障它进来的水都健康干净，才给他们喝。
As always, Tzu Chi volunteers pay attention to the smallest detail to ensure those coming forward to get tested are comfortable and well taken care of.
Also in Penang, 200 oxygen concentrators were lent to Malaysia from overseas and will be distributed to various hospitals around the country. The volunteers carefully examined each machine before handing it over for medical use.
These equipment are for saving lives. Although we waited for 3 hours for its arrival, we were patient and willing to wait for it.
200 oxygen concentrators have arrived in Malaysia by air freight, which is what the hospitals are in need of right now.
The oxygen concentrator is very in demand in Malaysia right now, especially this type, which is 10 liters, as COVID patients need a lot of oxygen for treatment.
Putting rescue work first after the machines have been checked, the Tzu Chi entrepreneur team rented a truck to help deliver it to different hospitals.
I'm so moved that Tzu Chi can lend this type of support. I encourage everyone to contribute what they can, whether it's manual labor or monetary funds. It's important to spread love.
The hospitals are very thankful for Tzu Chi's support once more during COVID.
Actually, they have identified oxygen concentrator as one of the reliable substitute to the oxygen tank, which you need to refill once it's empty. This initiative by Buddhist Tzu Chi is actually very timely in the sense that it will also reduce our workload of our staff to change the oxygen tank frequently.
Tzu Chi does their best in offering support and service where needed, helping to protect the frontline healthcare workers.
Today comes the second episode on the Kinong's Waimusan coastline, which is a very important high-latitude long-reef coral cluster in Taiwan. Giant sea fans or table-shaped staghorn corals are often seen here. Experts say that the rise in sea temperature has led northern waters to become an even more important shelter for northern corals to migrate towards. However, Thai Power plans to build a natural gas receiving station here, potentially creating a major impact on local ecology.
Sailing from Keelong's Badouzi towards Waimusan, our destination is the area around Xiehe Power Plant. The 3 large smokestacks mark this thermal power generation function. After 47 years, Xiehe Power Plant will switch to natural gas for power generation. In order to build the 4th natural gas receiving station, Thai Power launched the idea of plant reclamation.
This area is 18.6 hectares that we see in front of us. The total is difficult to imagine, but if you think of the area of a basketball court, it will be nearly 450 basketball courts.
The area in front is a large reef, and the coral coverage is quite high. Originally, Thai Power was going to pull out straight from the promontory on the right to north. I communicated with them that this would destroy our port, so they made a sort of triangle offset, and below this position, they're big fans.
Are there any corals in the waters outside the Xiehe Power Plant? According to surveys, there are about 70,000 corals here. According to professional surveys conducted by private divers, the truth here is about to come out.
This is from the place where we just entered this water. It is about 150 centimeters or more in size. You see, this sea fan is very big.
Why are there a large number of sea fans in the Waimusan waters? First of all, we must understand the types of corals in Taiwan. Taiwan's corals can be divided into tropical coral reefs and high-latitude non-reef coral clusters. The former ones are mainly distributed in Kending, Lanyu Green Island, and Xiaoluqiu. The latter are distributed in Penghu and the northeast coast and northern 3 islands.
Waimusan is a typical high-latitude non-reef coral colony with sea fans and staghorn corals, which are the main builders of non-reef coral clusters.
Today, this kind of a large sea fan, which we see in the deeper waters of Waimushan, at a depth of 20 or 30 meters, it will grow upwards, forming a 3D-dimensional structure. Taiwan sees fewer sea fans clusters in the sea, but it is more likely in high-latitude countries like Japan and South Korea, where such clusters are easy to see.
This variety of staghorn coral can be seen in northern waters.
This kind of coral looks like a large table. We saw it in Waimushan. It can be as large as 4 meters. It looks like a large table made of cypress wood.
Experts are worried about the increasingly serious climate change effects as sea temperature continue to rise. Northern seas are actually a refuge for corals migrating from the south. The Waimusan Sea area should be protected rather than impacted by human disturbance, but Thai Power emphasized that its development can indeed coexist with corals.
In the early days of the construction of the Sheher power plant, we set up 2 artificial structures in the sea area of the power plant. It provides a good environment for the adhesion and growth of corals. It is true that the coverage rate on this structure is about 16%. Some say there are more than 70,000 corals. In the sea area, we have done a complete investigation. The purpose is to say that coral ecology in this area in the future will have the opportunity to be transplanted successfully in the future.
Fanny Dennis, an assistant professor at the National Taiwan University Institute of Oceanography, who accepted the coral transplantation project in Waimusan waters, point out that when asked by reporters, this work has just begun. The project is still in progress, so I can't disclose too much because there's not enough information. Academia Sinica scholars pointed out that only in closed seas are there very few successful coral transplantation cases in the world.
Don't forget that we have large disturbances in the current sea conditions, like typhoons, which can cause a lot of disturbances. When these transplanted corals are stuck or planted in a specific block, such as cement block or a wave-eliminating block, whether it can survive when it is invaded by external forces is something we need to explore.
It extends a triangle like this. Yes, this is where they expect to work. If they move 50 meters here, he'll be less destructive, with a chance of keeping coral alive.
What kind of human development can minimize the harm to the marine ecology? This is something that we will continue to pursue as we keep investigating the future of the coral off the waters of Waimusan.
As the epidemic alert has lifted, Tzu Chi's second-hand assistive device platform in Hualien has resumed its service of home delivery. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you and see you next time.